Before I had a goal planner, I had no idea what goals I was going to be working on for the year. I was working on maybe one project and not ever finishing it, maybe rolling it over year by year. And I truly had no plan for breaking into the industry, like, at all. Now I'm more confident. I've hit more goals in my lifetime in the last several years since owning a goal planner than previously in my life. So that's why in this video today, I really wanted to talk about my 2025 goals with you to give you a little idea and hopefully help refine your own process of goal planning for your writing. I really want to inspire, especially neurodivergents, to find their own systems that work. And the only way that you can find that is if you share your process. So I'm going to share my process. Stay tuned and sit back while I bring you through my entire process, including how I actually break those larger goals down into smaller, manageable steps, how I make them more specific so I can reach my SMART goal potential, and some of the apps that I use to achieve my goals.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
That is so good. Welcome back to my channel, Scribes. It's 2025 and I'm so excited. If you don't know me, I'm Pika Lee. I'm a writer and filmmaker, and I make videos to demystify the entertainment industry for writers, help them develop a writer's foundation, and of course, I share some tips for you on how to develop story. Today, I want to talk to you about my 2025 goals. I do this annually. I buy my trusty Ink and Volt goal planner. I know it looks super basic, but the inside is really what matters. Every year, my planner asks me to give a theme for the year, and this year, my theme is Break Through the Fear and Harness Determination. It's hard every year to come up with some theme, but I am genuinely vibing with this one this year because I definitely have a problem with fear, and I definitely have a problem with my creativity being on display as a filmmaker and read as a writer and a creative being. So for me, it's one of those things that I want to use to actually help myself stay determined by breaking through the fear and being able to achieve some really great goals this year. As I said before, I definitely want to share my process so that you can take some of these little tidbits and maybe refine or create your own personal strategy for goal planning yearly. My goal planning also lends a hand to how I process my writing throughout the year and how my writing process is integrated into my everyday life. Part of my goal setting system is buying the Ink and Volt book every year before it gets to January 1st. Typically, I like to buy it around November or early December to make sure it gets in time so I can brainstorm. But I'm actually doing a lot of my brainstorming for my goals months in advance. I goal plan quite a lot because if I don't plan ahead, I will never think ahead. I tell you when I get asked, what do you see in the next 1 to 5 years for your goals in your life? I absolutely cannot think that far ahead. So over the years of goal planning, I've learned to make these a lot smaller and to make them a little bit more actionable. In fact, SMART goals were kind of a mystery to me on how to create them for a very long time. And recently, I've been able to make my goals a lot more attainable and more SMART related. And SMART goals are pretty much specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. In my Ink and Volt journal, they do a great job of having spaces for you to write your overall goal and then break it down into smaller actionable sequences and tasks. It then gives you a timeline page where I go ahead and I break it down literally by the 12 months of the year. And from there, I break down which months, which goals will have to play out. And when I write those, I do it in pencil so that I can easily change it, move it around if I need to. I add a little flexibility to my goal planning because I know that I need that flexibility. And I think it can serve everybody to have a little bit of flexibility with their goal planning so that they don't feel discouraged. The rest of the journal, once you plan out your major goals for the year and you draw out your timeline, it then allows you to go week by week and you can see calendar view the days of the week with boxes for day, noon, and night, and then I can actually write in there and plan out my weeks week by week. It's got reflection prompts, which I really like to make me kind of think a little bit more about my goal setting plan and reflect a little bit on myself. It's kind of like having a little coach inside the book. On my timeline, I am very strict with what projects I'm going to be working on, and I think very carefully about the time of year and how long it's going to take me to do certain things. I don't want to line up too many features back to back because I'm just going to burn myself out as a writer. I also want to think about if I'm writing novels, if I'm revising a script, if I'm writing a whole new script, and what kind of script I'm writing, because those things really play into how long it takes for you to actually get through the process of writing. This year, I'm going to be doing a year of writing cozy romance / Hallmark style romances and holiday themed scripts. So for me, I know that I can write them probably in about a month. It's going to be the first draft. It won't be a polished draft. So that is something that I'm keeping in mind. It will take me at least a month. And if I do need to push it back, I might leave a month available for me to do that and have something that's a little bit low effort as far as maybe a revised project. So if I'm still writing another project, my revising project is not really going to get in the way of using too much brain space. But that is how I figured out that I personally work. The only way that you can do this is by failing at spacing out where your writing projects are going and then revising that for the next year or for the next few months. My journal also has weekly reflections where you can see where you've been doing well and where you have not been doing well. And then you can revise next week's schedule. That's personally how I like to work with my goals. Just revise week by week and see how it's going. Part of my goal system is also having a dedicated day to write. It's already set up that I am automatically going down to where I used to live and going to the same coffee shop that I've been going to for a couple of years to write. That is my day after a certain time. 4 p.m. is usually when I start to write, and then I write until maybe about 8 p.m. So it's a good solid couple of hours where I get a coffee. I maybe get to see some of my writing friends from my writing group, and I get to work on my project. The atmosphere in the cafe absolutely keeps me in that sort of co-working mind space. So even if no one is actually there with me, I'm able to co-work in that space because the noise and the atmosphere and people just walking around and doing their own thing absolutely keeps me focused. I usually have a playlist that I curate for each of my works so that it's in the vein and in the mood of what I'm writing to get me hearing lyrics that are describing something similar to what I want as far as the mood to be set as. My writing day does end up getting switched up sometimes. Sometimes I want to write at home. Sometimes I have to leave the house. Sometimes I write with friends. Sometimes I write without friends. It definitely changes depending on what I can tolerate for the day and how I'm feeling and how motivated I am. And then rewarding myself with getting out of the house by having a little treat and a little coffee is also something that motivates me to write. Now, another part of my process is I use Asana for story management. This year, I'm heavily going to be using it. I also do have a spreadsheet that I'm playing around with. It's organizing all of my writing with all of the statuses of each project, if they're in the first draft mode, if they're in the second draft, if they are just in the idea stage, and that way I can track how many things I have been writing over the years. I find that it's helpful because I have been applying to things like fellowships and to screenwriting competitions, and sometimes they ask for quantities of things that you've written. I'm also using that as a way for me to track what competitions I'm in and if I've submitted anything to agents or producers. So it's going to be sort of an all-around sheet. I'm testing it out to see if it's really functional for me, and then hopefully I can come back with good news about it for you. Yes, I'm being overly track heavy on goals and everything because if I don't, my mind will not track it for me, and I will be a complete mess and know nothing about myself, my writing, or anything that I'm working on. If you don't know what Asana is a productivity tracking software. It's free. Most of what I mention is free because I don't like to pay a lot of subscriptions, so definitely check out anything that I have referenced here today. Asana is really great for tracking my scripts too because I can move them on the board to these different sections. I also found out that you can outline in Asana. Some writers have used it to do a full outline and keep track of those story outlines in one place, which I think is kind of awesome. So yeah, I might try that out soon. As you can see, I'm a pretty productivity heavy writer, and that is because it's been the most useful for me in the last few years. I watch a lot of Ali Abdaal videos. I was using productivity just as a tool and a resource to help me get all of my stuff together, to get goals finished, to finally stop procrastinating, to finally focus much better. And they've been so easy to implement into my life. There's so many apps now, so much technology around it, and I have seen the results. And so that's why you might hear quite a lot of productivity that I'm talking about. I think productivity is useful in everybody's life, but especially useful in those who might struggle naturally implementing these things into their life. Some of these productivity things are using my goal book and reflecting quarterly on those goals so that I can see and understand what has been getting done, and really time auditing to see where I'm losing my time and why I'm not getting some goals finished. Now remember, I'm going to tell you what my goals are coming up pretty soon, so hang tight. I really want to talk to you about all of the things that I want to do this year, and hopefully you can relate. A lot of productivity videos that you might watch also somewhat count as a way of CBT. If you don't know what CBT is, cognitive behavioral therapy. You would usually talk about the issues that you're struggling with. You would usually get a resource or a tool to help you manage that, and then you would implement it into your everyday life. That's what productivity is for me. They've been ways to sort of cope and manage and actually become a tool for me every day. I've got a lot of habits that I've implemented too that are very disciplinary. The point of me telling you the productivity CBT aspect of things is because I want some people to understand that even if you feel like you don't have a handle on your writing goals and you don't feel necessarily like you're achieving much, there is strength in reflecting on your goals and seeing the progress that you wouldn't have done years ago or months ago or days ago. And that's what's really pushed me through completing a lot of things. Part of those hacks are really dedicating a time that I have to force myself to write, even if I don't feel like writing. It's also why I've built a lot of other habits. My first experience with goal setting was during 2019 NaNoWriMo, where I decided I was going to write a 50K in 1 month, and from there I built 30 days of a habit of writing every day. And so doing that for NaNoWriMo actually appealed to a side of myself that likes to hyper-focus a little bit more, who sought reward from hitting those little benchmarks where you got a little badge. And it overall seemed to work for me at the time to really lock in some sort of a new writing habit. Now, all of these worked because I learned more about myself during the process. I re-implemented them because they actually did work for me, and that's how I built over time my goal setting strategy. Alright, so what are these 2025 goals? Stay put because I still haven't told you about the apps that I use. Now I know you can't see it very well, but it does say cozy romance and sweater weather on my shirt. I hope that's a clue. That's right, this year I'm going to do a year of cozy romance, Hallmark-esque writing. I'm going to be writing specifically 5 scripts in that genre, mostly so that I can niche down my portfolio and really get a very solid grip on writing that kind of story. It's the storytelling that I absolutely enjoy writing in. It's something that's a little bit more attainable for me and relatable to specifically where I want to go as a writer. Now, I'm not saying that I want my whole career to be Hallmark-esque writing, but for now, this is the first step in the many steps that I will take as a screenwriter. I enjoy watching the movies with my mom and my family, so it's something that I've already got expertise in, I've already got an interest in, and that is my motivation for doing a year of Hallmark writing. The next part of my writing goals for this year is going to be revising one of my first manuscripts, which is also in the romance category, although it's YA, which is young adult romance. This year, I'm actually going to listen to it as if it was an audiobook. There's some accessibility features on iPhone that I'm going to use to listen to it because I have not read my book in a couple of years now. I would love to do a quick revision of that and then send it back out to readers this year again so that I can start my query process. The goal for that book has always been to get it queried traditionally, and I'm still aiming for that. Another large goal of mine is completing my project that I started last November. It was for November's Writing Month project. I did not complete it. I did reach 50K though, which was absolutely amazing to hit. So I do have a specific month dedicated to writing and completing that project. It was my first historical romance, so it's coming out a little longer than I anticipated, but I'm still in love with it and I still want to finish it before I start my revision of my 2019 project. I did have last year a goal of hitting 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and you guys blew me away, and at this point, much more than that. This year, I do have a much better goal to actually do 2 videos per month. If I can do more than that, I will, because I am much busier this year. I also definitely wanted to implement a new type of content on this channel, maybe some interviews with writers. So I am thinking about that, and hopefully that comes to fruition this year. I do have a financial goal, as everybody should have a financial goal, and it's basically just to be financially fit for the year. Not really relevant to writing, so I'm not going to discuss them here, but I just wanted you to know that they are something that I do plan for throughout the year. I find that it's relevant to tell you about these other goals because I don't want you to think that I have all the time in the world to dedicate to just strictly writing. Professionally, I am so excited to do these next few things. I've set a goal to join back up with Women in Film LA. They are a really great place to go and see movie screenings ahead of time, to go to talks in the industry for other women, and they're just a great way to also understand and meet new people in the industry and get a little bit of that industry knowledge. So it's one of those things that I joined a couple of years ago, and I did for a couple of years. I did take a break on that because I wasn't able to afford the membership, but the membership is quite affordable. I just didn't have it at the time, so I'm so excited to actually jump back into that. This year, I'd love to go to 3 film festivals. I love surrounding myself in people in the industry because I don't get to talk about the industry outside of those people that I meet. Another big thing that I want to do professionally is go to 2 book festivals. That's really important to me to go to for my industry and for the types of writing that I do. I've been saying I'm going to do it for a couple of years and I haven't done it yet, so now it's a goal. Some of the apps that I use. I'm definitely in the Mac ecosystem, so for me it's really handy to use my Notes app because it goes through the cloud in between my phone notes and onto my computer so that it's on my desktop. In my Notes app, I tend to have folders in there, and I tend to break it down with sometimes my writing folder, which has that broken down even further. If I'm going to school and I'm taking a course, I've got the course name in there as its own folder, and then all of the notes are inside there. I'm a very trying to be completely organized person, because if I don't find things that I'm looking for, I will forget it exists, and it will cause all kinds of chaos in my writing or in just my life in general. I use hard drives and Google Drive to back up my writing. You should be backing up your writing, especially if you're writing a novel. Those things take forever to write. There's so many words, and if I lost any one of those, I would be so very upset at all of the hard work that I put into it. One of my favorite apps is the Task app. I use the Task app to write different types of lists. I've got one for day off tasks. I've got one for writing a list that's just a brain dump list, and then a list for if I literally have nothing to do and I need something to do, but it's really simple to do and I haven't done it, like take all of the photos off of my iPhone. The great thing about Task app is that it allows you to set a day and a time to be reminded to do that task. So I often use the function where I remind myself when the start of a project is, so I can start writing that. And for the first couple of days where I don't check it off and I completely ignore it, it will remind me. What I like to do is make a task, then make subtasks that can equally be checked off, and while those don't get specific dates and times, at least I can see them in order, and I can keep going back to my writing task list where I will see at the very top of it what is the thing that I'm supposed to be working on. I also generally just use this in my everyday life. I schedule a time to do any sort of tasks in the house that I have to do for the day. If you're not using something like the Task app and you don't want to download an extra app, you can always use Google Calendar, or you can use iCal, which of course, if you're an iPhone user, it's going to be iCal. From there, you can add the event that you want to for the day. You can set the time to remind you. I usually use 2 alarms to remind me. I might remind myself an hour before it or like 15 minutes before it, and a second time as well. I don't do this for smaller tasks. I do this for things like the start of writing my novel, or I do this for checking in with myself on various tasks like writing goals or going to writing seminars. I also place in there any sort of upcoming event that has to do with any of the goals that I've set, like a reminder to buy tickets for a certain film festival that's coming up, or things like that I'm definitely going to forget. And I often use the widget to have my calendar right on the face of my home screen so that I can see events that are coming up. These are simple tools that are somewhat already on your phone or accessible to you for free that I use daily for lots of different things. So if you aren't great with figuring out when on the calendar you need to be doing things, add it in way ahead of time as a reminder for yourself to start preparing for that task. If the calendar is what's going to work for you, at least it will give you a little pop-up notification and alarm during the day so that it can remind you to do these things. Remember to tailor your system to your needs. If you don't quite have that problem like I do, you can easily just check in with your goal book. I honestly really hope that talking about my process helps you scribes, and I hope that you can drop down below some of the things that you're working on this year. And if you've got a helpful tip, I obviously would love that. If you can drop your helpful tip down below for me and the scribes in this community, that would be fantastic. What do you usually do to get through your goals for the year? And what are your goals for the year? I thank you, scribes, for sticking with me on this one. I am so looking forward to seeing your progress throughout the year. Come back and let us know what you're up to, and happy writing!